As part of a joint initiative, an event dedicated to combat against Russian malicious information activity was held in the most vulnerable country. Given the increasing threat posed by the Russian malicious information activity, Tarand, the industry-first solution on human-focused information security, and Ukraine Crisis Media Center, the hybrid warfare analytical group, the largest Ukrainian organization combating Russian malicious activity, held on May 29th in Tbilisi as part of a joint initiative an event titled Identification and Combat Against Russian Disinformation and Propaganda. The local partner of the event was the Georgian Strategic Analysis Center. The capital of Georgia was not chosen as a location for this event by chance, as Georgia was the victim of Russian military aggression in 2008. And prior to that, Georgia became the target of a large-scale Russian malicious information campaign.
There is a reason for that. I think Georgia is a very good textbook case of the successful Russian propaganda campaign, which they managed, unfortunately, to put forward. And it is also used to be part of Soviet Union. Now it declared its intention to go to West and doing some things. However, Russians are working very, very well here. So they have researched several interesting facts about that and decided to present it in a very interesting manner. We'll also have a speaker of our center, Tornike, who is one of the most prominent Georgian experts who worked with Russians. Not on propaganda issues, but negotiating with them, having a dialogues, not very successful ones, but it's not his fault. And plus, he is a very good expert in Russian politics in general. Let me remind you that he is author of the several books, so if you have not read it, please, it's very interesting. And of course, today, when we have active war in Ukraine, what we are witnessing here is also hidden war in the rest of the world. This war has its financial aspects, its political aspects, but biggest part, of course, is information. With this social networks, with this internet, and with the global access to information, like Lasha is, instead of listening to me now, is dealing with his phone, it's very easy. And it's very convenient. And very successful. So I think that I don't like the idea that we are one of the textbook cases of how Russia can be successful, but it's also interesting purely from a scientific point of view how we can work with that, how we can deal with that. I think you have some solutions, don't you? Yes, some solutions, which won't be easy, of course, which requires lots of resources because they are spending lots of resources, but we need to work on that. Otherwise, it may end up with a disaster.
CEO and founder of Tarand.io, Ali Hajizadeh, attended the event and gave a presentation on the Russian concept of information warfare called The Battle in the Psychosphere.
Cold War is not over in 1991. They just take a break and they restart this in 2008 when they invite to Georgia. Yes, before that they also have quite significant activity, but when they invite to Georgia, they understand that, oh, we have to rethink our strategy of information warfare. They understand that they probably win in the ground, but they lose information war and psychological war to Georgia and countries who back to Georgia.
During the event, Georgian expert Tornike Shereshinic, Ukraine Crisis Media Center, the hybrid warfare analytical group expert Ina Polyanska, the founder of the Georgian Strategic Analysis Center, Nodar Karshaladze, delivered speeches and presentations on the Russian malicious information activity targeting Georgia and Ukraine.
By doing that, Russian propaganda is systematically inciting hatred toward Ukrainians and Ukrainian identity inside the Russian society. And secondly, Russian disinformation and information operations are aimed now to sow panic among Ukrainians, undermining the resistance and stability and the morale of the Ukrainian society, both civilians and the military, and it's aimed to destabilize Ukraine both physically and politically. Talking about the recent time, among the most prevalent propaganda tactics disseminated by Russia on the West, which is our sphere of responsibility, Russian narratives which are being disseminated in the international space, It's disinformation about Ukraine's political structure and its infringement on freedom of speech, with blaming Ukrainian government, for example, for leaving many Russian-speaking Ukrainians without a voice, which is definitely not true. This is one of the traditional narratives Russia uses to justify its aggression and defend the Ruski Mir quasi-ideology. Why I am here today? Because the Russian-Ukrainian war extends beyond territorial disputes. It also represents a clash of values. Russia seeks to undermine the Ukrainian political identity by portraying Ukraine as a mere Western puppet and the victim of the external governance, both from the NATO, the US, the collective West, and consequently the war against Ukraine is framed as a battle against NATO and the entire collective West. It's framed as a civilizational conflict where Russia presents itself as a healthy alternative to the abnormal West. This strategy not only tries to justify and normalize Russian invasive war in Ukraine, but also frames this war as a sacred crusade, sacred war against Western civilization, which desires to destroy Russian nation.
I'm pretty sure if Ukraine falls, then Georgia is next on the list. Then maybe Kazakhstan, but Georgia would be the easiest target. It would be the easiest target. Too much dependent on Russian economy, unfortunately. And we have to admit that even DCFTA did not help very much. Georgian businesses were not able to benefit from DCFTA, and mostly Georgian businesses are still tied to the Russian market, which is not, let's say, quite stable, to say the least of it. So, when you face a nuclear great power with a brainwashed population, with a very, let's say, stubborn president, you have to, I guess you have to commit your resources to inside audience.